Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the cheat sheet edition of the Steel City Underground podcast, previewing this week's upcoming game between the 2-5 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 6-0 Philadelphia Eagles. My name is Joe Kuzma, and if you're not familiar with the format, this is the quick hit, the fast facts, everything that you need to know about Sunday's game between the Steelers and the Eagles. This one is, despite being an NFC opponent, will be broadcast on CBS, and actually with the A-team, with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, which is pretty cool. Coming into this game, the Eagles lead this series all-time 48-29 and 3. The Steelers have the last victory between the two opponents with a 38-29 victory October 11th, 2020. You may remember that as Chase Claypool's coming out party with the 4 touchdown receptions. Of course, the Steelers lead when it's in the series is actually tied in Pittsburgh, 19-19 and 1, but when it's in Philadelphia, it's very lopsided. And as we had mentioned on the pregame show with myself and Brian E. Roach, go back and check that out. A lot of content there. I know some of you don't have a full hour, but we got a lot of good, healthy notes in there, and a lot of it has to do with just stuff that's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe offensive coordinator Matt Canada, maybe a Chase Claypool trade, maybe TJ Watt being available this Sunday. So be sure to check that out, because we had noted the Steelers haven't won in Philadelphia since 1965, but they've only played like 8 or 9 times there since 1965. This isn't a regularly occurring matchup, despite the billing of what a lot of people will try and force here is a Battle of Pennsylvania, which seems kind of silly when you really think about it, and these teams really haven't played too much. But alas, the Steelers just never win in the city of brotherly love, which probably won't seem like a city of brotherly love ever. The Eagles coming off of a bye week, of course, so they haven't played for a week. How will that factor in? Will they be fresh and ready to go? Are the Steelers getting fresh and ready to go at the same time? The Eagles have a clean bill of health. Well, the Steelers injury report, well, it looks a little more dismal. But anyways, Steelers have won 2 of the last 3. There actually are some neutral location sites between these teams. There's 3 of them where the Eagles lead 2-1. And the last of those was on November 20th, 1938. So these teams have been around a long time, and of course they combined forces once upon a time to be the Steagles. So back to the injury report. Little concerning on the Steelers end that Chris Boswell shows up with a right groin injury and did not practice today, Friday, October 28th. It's a great day for those of you who know. Josh Jackson, limited participant, but he's basically cornerback 4 or 5 on this roster. Might be 4 with Ahkello Witherspoon back. He's going to be back this weekend after nursing a hamstring injury over the last few weeks, but Levi Wallace hurt his shoulder trying to dive for an interception against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday night, and he has not practiced all week. He has already been ruled out for this game. Montravius Adams is a go. Steven Sims is a go and has confirmed verbally to the pool reporters that he will be the returner on Sunday. Pat Freiermuth, also a go, showed up earlier this week with an ankle injury. Cam Hayward was on the list only for a veteran day of rest. Larry Ogunjobi did not practice all week with a knee injury, so he will be another player that the Steelers are down on defense. But there are rumblings. There are rumblings that DeMonte Casey, I believe it was Jim Wexell that had said this, Casey might be back for Sunday. TJ Watt leaving the door open. Asked if there would be a snap or a pitch count on him. Wouldn't answer that either. Just sounded like he was ready to get out there. Now, do the Steelers gamble, or do they rest Watt for one more week? That's going to be something interesting to see as they go up against this Philadelphia Eagles team, unbeaten, led by Jalen Hurts. This is a photo from the last game that they played against the Dallas Cowboys, of course, that also being a victory. Hurts, that is, leads the team with 514 passing yards and 6 touchdown passes. He's also a threat on the ground. He has, let me see here, just lost it for a second, but also 6 touchdowns. I thought that was accurate. 77 yards rushing, or 77 attempts rushing. So they use him a lot in the run game. 293 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns on the ground, so he has 12 total. A dual threat quarterback, if there ever was one, really kind of coming into his own, almost completing 70% of his passes to date. So the Steelers are going to have to be very aware of him. A.J. Brown is his leading receiver with 33 catches for 503 yards and 2 touchdowns. Miles Sanders is the lead back out of that backfield with 105 carries for 485 and 4 touchdowns. Steelers still, by virtue of playing more games, Mitchell Trubisky still leads this team in passing, but Kenny Pickett, to date, he's completed 32 of 44 attempts last week. Good for 72.7, completed 257 yards. He has 250 plus pass yards in each of his first 2 career road starts, and he leads all rookies, which shouldn't be surprised. There's not a lot of rookie quarterbacks playing right now, with 87 completions, ranked second in passing yards, 771. So Pickett is still getting things done, and he's just a shy behind Trubisky here. Trubisky had 797 yards through those first 3.5 games, so Pickett is going to catch him in this one. He's just behind with about 25 fewer yards. Fuzzy math, 771 total, 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. We know that's not all on him. 66.8 passes completed. Najee Harris, 100 carries for 329, 3 touchdowns, 3.1, or I'm sorry, 1 touchdown, 3.3 yards per carry. I hate the way they do this stuff with the dashes. You know what I mean? I got to look into this, doing this. So apologies that I'm stumbling and bumbling on a few of the stats. Deontay Johnson leads the Steelers, 38 receptions, 337 yards. It's good for 8.9 apiece. He has yet to catch a touchdown pass. Most of the Steelers receivers have not. There's only 2 so far, with George Pickens last week and Chase Claypool the week before. The Steelers currently, if you take a look at where they rank in the pecking order here, they're 1-3 on the road. Philadelphia, of course, being unbeaten, would be 3-0, unbeaten at home. And Steelers are 3-3-1 against the spread. The Eagles are 4-2 against the spread. So that's interesting for those of you who are betting. The Steelers are 31st in scoring offense, 22nd in scoring defense, where the Eagles are 4th in both categories. Eagles lead the league with a plus 12 takeover differential. Takeaways. They don't give the ball up and they take it away. That has a lot to do with their secondary. And if we dive into some of the other stats, you've got C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you've got Darius Slay, and you've got James Bradbury. A couple of these guys acquired via trades, but they're the only trio of teammates in 2022, each with at least 2 or more interceptions. And since 2016, Slay and Bradbury they're tied with 91 pass deflections. That's the most, tied for most, too. The most among active players when it comes to defending against the pass. So the Steelers are going to have to get their run game going if they hope to do anything. They are currently 24th in passing offense, 27th in rushing offense. So it doesn't seem like something that's necessarily a given. And it's really hard to see how they might open a window and unseat the unbeaten Eagles. The Eagles are 13th in passing offense, 6th in run. It has a lot to do with the RPO with Jalen Hurts. Miles Sanders, very utilitarian back. You can catch out of the backfield as well. Defensively, the Steelers are 29th against the pass, 18th against the run, where Philadelphia is 5th against the pass and 12th against the run. Steelers have some pretty interesting numbers, though, with their inside linebackers, and they're trending to both be the first pair to have over 100 tackles as a unit since James Ferrier and Lawrence Timmons did so back in, I believe 2012 or 2013. Or I'm sorry, it might have been Larry Foote, actually. I'll have to go back. That might have been Larry Foote. So saw that across the wire, and I can't figure out who I can attribute it to, going off the old memory here, which isn't as good as it used to be all the time. Devin Bush, by the way, 6 tackles last week, 1 for a loss and a pass deflection. That was a big one in the end zone. Miles Jack led the team with 10 tackles last week, and this might be his 8th in a row with at least 6 tackles or more. He has 10 tackles in 3 of his past 4 on the road, so they've been very stout there. Alex Highsmith is 4th in the NFL with a career-high 6.5 sacks this season. Cam Hayward had a sack in the last meeting between these teams. I'm not sure what that really means. Going back, 2020, So a couple years, not exactly the same team that they were. Pat Freiermuth led the team with 8 catches and 75 yards last week, and he has 7 plus and 75 plus receiving yards in 2 of his past 3. He has receiving touchdown in 2 of his past 3 games versus the NFC. Chase Claypool had 5 catches last week in week 7, and has 50 plus receiving yards in 2 of his last 3 as well. So for all the flack that we've been hearing about the Claypool news, just the short update of it is, I guess, the Steelers, he was the 2nd round pick. He was the top pick that year because they didn't have a pick after trading for Minkah Fitzpatrick. So they're looking for at least that, but they're not looking to give him away. And by the way, Next Gen Stats from the NFL has Chase Claypool in the top 10 of slot receivers in the league. I believe he's 8th or 9th overall. But just to give you an idea, he's still a valuable part of this team. So the people that are kind of on his case need to just get off of it. So George Pickens is ascending too. He had 6 catches for 61 yards in his first career touchdown last week. He has 6 plus catches and 60 plus receiving yards in 3 of the last 4. He's second among rookie receivers with 338 receiving yards. On the Philadelphia end of this, they can match their best franchise start in franchise history. However, the last time they had such a similar start, I don't know if this was baloney or not. I can't figure out who put this out there. I'd show the tweet up on the screen too as well. But apparently Ben Roethlisberger was the one that ended that back in 2004. So can history repeat itself? We shall see. But of course, those were different circumstances because that game wasn't played in Philadelphia because the Steelers have not won there since 1965. But Jalen Hurts, of course, has 2 TDs and 0 interceptions and a 104.6 rating in that Week 6 win over the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry, they're noting him here as 8 rushing touchdowns. I had the numbers all mixed up. I wish the problem is Pro Football Reference that I was looking off of, teeny tiny numbers. I could put them on the screen if you'd like to see them, but they put the rushing stats further down the page than the receiving stats when we're talking about the quarterback. So I apologize when some of this gets huddled together, but anyways, Jalen Hurts is one of 4 quarterbacks, with Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes being the others with 300 plus passing and rush yards combined per game in 2022 with at least 4 starts. He's averaging 301.2. So he's been lights out. His needle's been pointing high. A.J. Brown, who they traded for from the Tennessee Titans, had 5 catches for team high 67 receiving yards and his 2nd receiving touchdown of the season in week 6. Miles Sanders had his 4th rushing touchdown of the season in week 6. He aims for his 3rd in a row at home with a rushing TD and 4th in a row at home with at least 70 yards plus or more from scrimmage. Devonta Smith had a touchdown catch in week 6 as well. He has 5 plus in 4 of his past 5. Dallas Goedert, their tight end, 5 plus catches and 70 plus receiving yards in 2 of his 3 home games this season. He ranks first among the NFC tight ends with 357 receiving yards this season. So he is relied upon quite a bit with the Philadelphia Eagles and their offense. Fletcher Cox had, again, these are the last home meeting that these guys had. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, you know their names. They were a force then. They'll still be a force now. Looks like everyone's going to be there. The interesting pickup here was Hassan Reddick. He has 4.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries in his past 4 games. And since 2020, he's one of 2 players with 10 plus games, exactly 10, with 1.5 plus sacks. That ties TJ Watt of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is an interesting little side note, little footnote to see if we happen to see TJ Watt back out there this week. For most of you folks who are looking on the where to watch, where to listen, let me pull that up here on the screen for those watching, for those listening from somewhere else. I'll give you a couple updates on that as well here in a second. But again, this is a CBS game. And Sunday, 1 o'clock in Philadelphia, Lincoln Financial Field is a natural grass surface. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson are the crew that are calling this game. Mike Tomlin is 2-1 against the Eagles lifetime. Nick Sirianni, in his 2nd year with the Eagles, 15-8. He has not yet played the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, of course, 155, 89-2, 16 years with the Steelers. So let's see here. The rest of the information that you may need to know, of course, if you have the Paramount Plus streaming package or NFL Plus, and these games are available locally in your area. This is the big one again, like with the A Crew. So if you see it in red here on the screen, or you could head on over to the 506sports.com website. Give them credit for this image. They're always great. They kind of carve this out into different sections. So for most of yous that are over throughout the entire Midwest, all of Pennsylvania, there's like a little sliver that's probably up. I think that's what, like Jamestown, Johnstown, up where all the forestry goes, all the lumber people. I'm sorry if I butchered your town's name. Again, I'm a little foggy here, but all of West Virginia through the Virginias, part of the Carolinas, with the exception of like Florida and Tennessee, and you're down in the south into Texas and out on the West Coast and Minnesota. Everyone else is going to get this game across to Ohio, Indiana, most of Illinois, minus Chicago, Wisconsin, Iowa, you name it, Tornado Alley. They're all getting this game. They're all going to see the Steelers and Eagles, and hopefully it's not a bad one. The Steelers are once again in a position of being an underdog. Shocker, 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 right? So, again, I forgot to give all of you the... let me get it here. The satellite radio coverage with Sirius XM. So on Sirius, if you want the Steelers feed, that's on 135, XM and app feed 385, internet 826 as per the usual. That's the Steelers home call number there for the most part. You have the Eagles on Sirius 82. The XM and Sirius XM app 227 and internet 825. Steelers Radio Network. We have all the affiliates. That's up every Saturday morning on steelcityunderground.com. If you need to go hunt that information down for something locally, we have some of the local TV stations as well, but unless you see it on that 506 Sports, sometimes that's not always accurate. So you'll see some of the Ohio television stations sometimes carry the Browns or Bengals. So just keep that in mind as you're perusing the website. The TV ones aren't as accurate. The radio ones are all the time if you're within the area to be able to get that. And let me see, of course, the referee for this game, Clete Blakeman, has a tendency of butchering the Steelers games in the past. I'm just glad he doesn't have one of the AFC North games. Watch, he'll get this game right here in week 8, and he'll be back around like week 17 when they play the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to be kicking myself for even saying that. Trying to see if there's any other interesting kind of notes that are popping up here, but I think we've covered all of the bases here and trying to get you within under 20 minutes. Oh, the underdog, the stats, the line. Steelers are plus 10.5 in this game. That's the spread. Money line plus 370 and over and under of 43. So if you want to take the money line and you're feeling good on the Steelers, 10.5 points, I don't know. Steelers defense was looking pretty good. Will they be completely gassed and tired out? Will the Eagles be able to do the same things as the Buffalo Bills did to them? Been a lot of close games. This season. So this is one that I'm kind of leaning towards. Can the Steelers get this turned around? We'll see what Matt Canada's future is. You can hear all of our comments about that on the previous episode, the pregame show, a little more in depth, but we'll see if TJ Watt's back, Ahkello Witherspoon back in the saddle, maybe DeMonte Casey. Steelers starting to turn around, get a little healthier, but they're also going to be facing a very healthy and well-rested, undefeated Philadelphia Eagles team in their home stadium. Almost said the Steagles there, no longer the Steagles. Always a fun fact, though. Always great to bring up. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting Steel City Underground wherever you may be watching or listening. My name is Joe Kuzma, and as always, we sign off this show by encouraging all of our viewers and listeners out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.